Good evening. I'm Robert Stone, the chair of the Underhill Select Board. Today's date is the 14th of January. It is now 6 o'clock. We are here at 12 Pleasant Valley Road at the Town Hall. I'm going to call this meeting to order. There is a agenda that has been, this is a special Select Board meeting. There's been an agenda that's been prepared in advance and been properly noticed. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I don't have any.
Hearing, seeing none, we'll move right along to opening public comment. We have a remote function and here at the town hall. We'll start inside and we can work our way back to the virtual world. Any public comment?
Hi, everyone. I wanted to say thanks for taking the time to consider the Apartheid-Free Community Pledge. This pledge has already been adopted by 5 Vermont towns, and there's active campaigns in about 20 more towns. 165 voters have signed the petition asking for the pledge to be an article at town meeting. And we've done this because we're fed up with the role that, as citizens of the US, we play in supporting Israel's actions in Palestine. $221,458 from Underhill tax dollars has gone to Israel in 2024. And there's a lot of local issues around, a lot of things happening locally around this issue. And so I would argue this is a local issue, and passing this resolution can be the first step in addressing the apartheid abroad, as well as things happening locally in relation to it. It has clearly articulated values that can then be followed up upon, even though this is a non-binding resolution. I also just wanted to point out there's a long history of Vermonters standing up for larger issues at town meeting. I was reading a Vermont Digger article, which was pretty cool, and it was talking about before Vermont was even a state, when town meeting began, towns were voting to boycott British goods. And so this, I feel like, is really in line with that. In the 80s, towns were supporting nuclear freeze resolutions. In the 90s, people were voting against the Iraq War. And so I think that the citizens of Underhill have stated they'd like to talk about what's happening in Palestine, talk about the issue of apartheid and our role in it locally. And so I hope that all of you agree to listen to what people are asking for and support the resolution. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Your comments are noted for the record. Thank you. Are there any comments virtually? Once, twice, sold. Okay. Moving it along. The next item on the agenda is to consider the Apartheid-Free Community AFC campaign petition. The petition is before you in your packet, I believe.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we approve the Apartheid-Free Community Campaign petition as part of the article for town meeting.
There's a motion on the table to move the AFC campaign petition for town meeting. Is there a second?
I will second.
I just have a point of order. I think it would be appropriate to read from the petition. I would read the question for the motion you're making. It's in your packet, the petition, a copy of the petition. And the wording is at the top.
So the petition reads, if you want to read it, or I can, Dan. Says the petition of the legal voters of the town of Underhill to the Underhill Select Board. We, the undersigned legal voters of the town of Underhill, hereby petition the Select Board of Underhill, Vermont to add the following article to the warning for the annual meeting of Underhill to be held on March 3rd, 2026. 1. Shall the voters of Underhill advise the Select Board to adopt the following pledge? We affirm our commitment to freedom, justice, equality for the Palestine Palestinian, people and all people. And we oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, and oppression. And we declare ourselves an apartheid-free community. And to that end, we pledge to join others in working to end all support to Israel's apartheid regime, settler colonialism, and military occupation. That is what was provided. So that would be what we would be affirming if this passes.
I would like to read a statement and put it in the public record.
Okay.
I am in support of this petition being included as an article in the town's warning for the Underhill Town Meeting in 2026. I recognize that there is no legal requirement to create this article, and I also know that we wouldn't be having this conversation if not for the petition before us. We are a local government, and this is a global issue. It is clear that the signers of the petition are wishing to think and to act outside of our town. First, I want it known that I disagree with any insinuation that speaking out against the state of Israel or leveling any criticism about their policies as being anti-Semitic. My opposition is not toward the Jewish people, but toward the state of Israel. The petition particularly addresses the unstated and hidden policy that Israel's relationship with Palestinians is a relationship of apartheid. Clearly, whether stated or denied, apartheid in Israel is alive and well. My support for the people of Palestine is not an indication that I also support the violence of October 7th, 2023, or any other violence. I do believe, though, that if a state assists in the building of a volcano of oppression, it is difficult to keep control over the top of that volcano before it explodes. Since I have traveled to Palestine a few years ago, I can say that I've experienced firsthand the harassment and oppression that the Israeli government exerts on Palestinians. I have experienced the wait at checkpoints. I have witnessed an Israeli soldier with an assault weapon at his hip wrongly confront a member of our group about documentation. I have walked down public streets seeing Israeli soldiers on rooftops holding automatic weapons at the ready. I have heard stories and have seen evidence from Palestinians about their land having been in families for generations, being confiscated and crops destroyed. I believe the petition encourages heightened awareness of the issues. I believe the BDS, boycott, divest, sanction movement is a valid effort to put pressure on the state of Israel to take steps toward lasting peace and coexistence. I personally do what I am able to participate in this program and urge others to do the same. When meeting with Palestinians at various places throughout the country, it seemed that their stories were all very similar. Invariably, when they were asked, "What can we do to help?" the response was always, "Just tell our story." It seems that this petition, with the invitation to affirm freedom, justice, and equality for the Palestinian people and for all people, is just a worthwhile step in helping this story retelling to happen. I submit with respect this statement.
Thank you, Dan. Do you have a copy of that statement, or can you?
I will
Make-
forward a copy to Brad so that it is included in the public record.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any other discussion? Patty?
Yeah, I thank you, Dan, for that. That was really well thought out and stated, and I just want to thank you for those words. I just want to make a statement that the petition is asking the town of Underhill to take sides in a military war type event. I personally am disgusted and appalled by all the war type events happening throughout the world currently. But it boils down to that none of these events are of the jurisdiction or control of the town of Underhill. Our legal representative or legal counsel has advised us not to put this petition, or not to put this petition on the ballot for vote because it's not town business. And that it does set a precedent that we could be asked for other similar articles of national or political attention to be warned for the voters. And I just, where does it stop? Should we be taking sides on the Ukraine conflict? Should we be taking sides in war events that the United States is doing? I'm very torn by this because I am, as I said, I'm disgusted by all the war events we have going on currently in the world. And it just doesn't strike me that it's town business, and our legal counsels specifically advised us not to put it up for warning for a vote of the voters. And I do want to recognize that we on the select board did take action for a declaration of inclusion. And that declaration of inclusion states the town of Underhill condemns racism and welcomes all persons, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender identity or expression, age or disability, and wants everyone to feel safe and welcome in our community. As a town, we formally condemn all discrimination in all of its forms, commit to fair and equal treatment of everyone in our community, and will strive to ensure all of our actions, policies, and operating procedures reflect this commitment. The town of Underhill has and will continue to be a place where individuals can live freely and express their opinions. And that is signed by Dan, Bob, and myself when we were a 3-person select board. To me, that is the expression of our community against racism and against the evils that are going on in the world. To me, this is the better policy for us to be behind.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Thank you both for your statements. I am speaking in support of this being brought before the town at town meeting. And my reasoning actually is less about what the issue is and where I fall on the issues, but more about in our current climate, it is becoming very challenging for citizens to have a voice against what our government is doing. Ways of protest that we have ever known before are not working. And I support the desire of our town residents who have signed the petition to want to be able to have a conversation at a town level that may get public attention. And so as supporting voice and our citizens coming together to have a voice, and ultimately in the way of protest, where we all are needing to create ways to be heard, I am in support of this being discussed at town meeting. I think we can argue both sides from our own current day legal guidance, and then as well as Vermont's unique history of town meeting. I think that town meetings in Vermont have struggled for our residents to feel like it's worthwhile for them to be engaged in. And if there were an opportunity for it to expand a little bit beyond town business, I hear that loud and clear. For those reasons, I'm in support of it being included.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I also wanted to share some thoughts. One of the things that Michelle mentioned is the history of town meetings, including items that are beyond the scope of town business. And one of the things that had been included in a previous packet was a selection of other items throughout the years that town members have put on their petitions. In 1999, the town had an item in favor of nuclear weapons abolition treaty. In 2003, there was voting on a push for a sustainable energy future and a separate item encouraging citizens and business owners to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In 2005, there was a statement on the town meeting about opposition to the Iraq War and objection to the deployment of members of the Vermont National Guard. In 2006, there was an item about opposition of use of state funds for purposes outside of its intent. And there was separately another item to encourage state legislatures to require parental notification for abortions of minors. This, I think, history specifically within Underhill, I think is an important thing to recognize when in excess of 5% of the population, as is required for a petition, when that threshold is met, to give the opportunity for people to have that conversation. And I understand that it is not within the scope of things that we legislate, but I think it is an important way, as Shara said, to allow members of the town to have the conversations they wish to have in a way that is sort of constrained and constructive. And for that purpose, I think it is something worth allowing.
Thank you.
Can I respond to one thing?
Sure.
I would like to respond to two things that were said. You know, one thing is that it's not the town that's taking a stand on an international issue. It's the ability of town residents to think about and discuss an important issue that is often hidden under the protection of media and government. And secondly, while the attorney did say he wouldn't recommend it, he did not imply that there would be any damage if we did decide to do it, that it is basically only an advisory petition, and it isn't necessarily asking the select board to take a stand and take action other than approving the people's voice.
Thank you.
One other thing I meant to say earlier is I also wanted to echo, Dan, your statement that there is not an intent, whether specifically or kind of as a side consequence of this, that is intended to be or should be read as anti-Semitic in any way. This is not about Jewish people. It is specifically about, I think the way that it is written is very clear around, it is about a government policy. And I think making that extremely clear, especially as it is in line with our 2022 Declaration of Inclusion, and part of the ability for the town of Underhill to continue to be a place where individuals can live freely and express their opinions. I think this is in that spirit. I just wanted to add that comment. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion?
I just wanted to bring up just a clarifying point here, because if you do get to the vote and the vote is in the affirmative, we need to decide where it's going to go in the warning. So typically those articles that you mentioned, Maureen, were on Australian ballot. So that means all the voters that day get to weigh in. However, the recent law has changed to allow, so we do our first part of the business. We elect a moderator, we pass the budget, and then we have an opportunity to read and discuss Australian ballot questions. That's not where the vote happens, though. So I'll make that very clear. There could be discussion regarding the Australian ballot question, but there'll be the vote. We'll have to wait to get to the results when the polls close to know what the result is. So just want to make sure everyone's clear on that point.
So point of information for you, Brad. So it is the intent of this, if this was, I can't even speak tonight, if this were to pass, that this would be an Australian ballot question that would be voted on when the polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. Or would this be something that would be voted on the floor at town meeting?
You could probably have it either way, and I may have to defer to Dan Mance, but it could be an advisory article, but then you don't have the full benefit of hearing from all the voters. Then it's just who comes up to town meeting. So you got the first part. That's the first part, is whoever's at town meeting. The next part is Australian ballot, which everyone gets to, including the people that were participated in the morning session. Am I correct in saying this, right, Dan?
Yes, I think you have that exactly right. And I think it could be handled in either place as an Australian ballot item or from the floor. One consideration of doing it from the floor is somebody would make the motion, it would get a second, discussion would occur, amendments could be made. So people could get involved in debating the language. People could modify the language that's originally presented in the warning for consideration. So depending on how important it is to preserve the pristine language as it exists, might suggest putting it on as an Australian ballot item. But it could go either place.
I would concur with, precedent has always been that these questions have been on Australian ballots, so the entire voting public gets a chance. But as again, the difference over the past few years is that we read the Australian ballot questions and we talk about them from the floor, but they're non-binding.
Thank you, Brad. So I think we're getting a bit of the cart before the horse. I think it would be appropriate, if there's no further conversation, to hold a vote. And should this pass, then we can discuss that as a secondary item. Then, of course, if it fails, then we're moving on to the next item in the agenda. So having said that, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the petition that was presented, I'll just reread it, that we accept the language in the petition stating that the undersigned legal voters of the town of Underhill hereby petition the select board of the town of Underhill to add the following article in the warning of the annual meeting of the Underhill to be held on the 3rd of March, 2026, that the voters of Underhill advise the select board to adopt the following pledge: that affirm our commitments to freedom, justice, equality for the Palestinian people and all people, and oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, and oppression, and declare ourselves an apartheid-free community, and to that end pledge to join others in working to end all support of Israel's apartheid regime, settler colonialism, and military occupation. That is the question before you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed with a nay?
Nay.
Nay. So it's a divided house, so we'll do a roll call vote. I'll start. Bob Stone, nay.
Patty Richards, nay.
Maureen Collins-Cole, aye.
Shara Tarul, aye.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
The motion carries 3-2. So now I feel it is appropriate for the board to take action as far as now that we have decided that we are going to have this be part of the warning for town meeting. If this is going to be, as Brad has stated, historically on the Australian ballot, or if we are not going to follow that precedent. A motion one way or the other would be appropriate at this time.
I move that we include the petition as an item on the Australian ballot.
It's been moved. as a-
Second.
I'll second.
So moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just think, as Brad said, it makes sense that if it's going to be an item, that it should be something that everybody who comes to vote has an opportunity to weigh in on, not just those who are able to attend town meeting.
Very good. Any other discussion?
I just have a clarifying point. So typically we write word for word what the petition says. There's a typo in the petition. It states, shall the voters of the Underhill. I would suggest inserting, shall the voters of the town of Underhill be included in that. I think we have the ability to do grammatical, or we're not changing the substance of it all. It's just clarifying, shall the voters, you could say, shall the voters of Underhill. I could just take out the word the.
I think that would be, if it's the consensus of the group, I think that removing the word the would be fine.
Okay.
Agreed.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So that is the consensus of the group, that we would feel comfortable with removing the word the from that, Brad.
Yes, I'm just trying to make it look like it wasn't our error, right? So we were very particular about the warning. So, and I understand things happen. It's not a big deal.
So there's still a motion on the floor and it has been seconded. Is there any further discussion as far as that is concerned? Dan?
I agree. I will support the motion. I don't want to speak for the people who organized and cultivated this petition and the conversations that happened, but I admire their steadiness in doing that, in talking to people, in informing them, and having a booth at the harvest market. And I believe that can continue easier if it's an Australian ballot and people see the warning and they may ask questions. And I can imagine that folks who are knowledgeable would be very happy to talk about the stance that they have taken. It's all about education and the ability for people to speak their minds.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion of having this be an Australian ballot item for the voters to decide on, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed with an nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that takes care of that. The next item on the agenda, I believe, is going to be the review and accept the fiscal year 2027 proposed final budget, version 7, and draft the official warning and confirm the February 26th date for the town meeting informational hearing. Jennifer is here. Jennifer, this must be a little bit of a record by only having 7 versions of the budget. I believe in years past, it's been much higher. So I think kudos to you for all your hard work and the team that put forth a lot of effort. So I'm not sure of the exact number we had last year, but I don't think it was 7.
Well, we've been up as high as 11 or 12 before, so this is pretty good. I think everybody's put a lot of time and energy into this budget. And at the end, paring everything down and putting everything that we need to put in, we're looking at about a 2% increase for our overall municipal increase in expenses in a year where we've got a lot of vendors that we use who are, 10, 12, 14% increases. So I think this is a really responsible budget that you guys have crafted with the help of committees and volunteers and staff. There was only a handful of changes that were made between version 6 and version 7, and I'm going to scroll through on the screen and I'll tell you which page they are. But there was only a handful. On page 6, this isn't something that you asked me to change, but I always go through and look at all the cells and all the equations, and I noticed that between some version and some version, the line 178, our community cares camp, instead of it being $3,000, which was level funding from last year, it was 0. So somehow it got deleted. So I put it back in.
Good catch.
So I made that change. And then I also made another change, line number 7, on page 7, line number 215. For the last 4 years, we've had $6,000 for training and licensing for the highway department that hasn't been used. That money is in there so that if they have training classes they want to go to, if they get CDL licenses or upgrades to their CDL, that money is there. But we've never even come close to the 6,000. So I dropped it to 3,000, which then made that equal to the 3,000 that I had somehow lopped off of the community cares camp. I can assure you that if the highway crew has trainings that they want to go to that exceed the $3,000, that we will find the funds to make sure they get whatever training they wish to go to. And then the next one is on the same page, line 226. That is the shield for the excavator. And I met with Russ, and because we were talking in the office about, the safety and the whole thing of, well, we're getting the shear because we want to be safe when we're cutting down trees. Well, how safe is Dwayne in this excavator with giant trees coming down over his head? So Russ assured me, which I then shared with the team downstairs, that it has a reinforced already. The roof part of the excavators already came with this package that was a reinforcement for the roof. And this cage, there's 3 cages to choose from that all fall into this budget line, would protect the whole front. And it's basically a cage that opens so you can get in and out, but it's a really hefty safety cage. So we have added that in here for the $5,000 on line 226. And there was one other thing. That was it. Tree share. Oh, line 265. That was just a tree share. Russ and I met and we talked about the issue of tariffs versus no tariffs. Do we need to increase this number or decrease this number? And we looked at the invoice that we had and the quote and felt comfortable that this was the right number, that we don't need to add anything to this number to have it make sense. And then before you have a discussion, I just wanted to point out that line 270, which is our total expenses, it shows $5.1 million. Please keep in mind that a huge amount of this is Bridge 7, paving, and some capital items that won't happen unless they happen. And those capital items that we're talking about, those big ticket items, a majority of those are being paid for out of grants, not tax dollars. So when you pull the capital out, again, we're looking at an operating expense increase of 2% without the capital. And I think that's what everybody's done a really good job with here. The town of South Burlington was just bragging on WCAX that they have a 3% and something. So you guys can feel good that we have a 2% increase. So that's all I have. I don't know if you want to discuss that before we go on to the next piece.
So Jen, is it fair to say that all the capital, maybe not all, but the majority of the capital projects are being covered by other revenue sources?
That's correct.
Is that a fair?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any discussion on the budget?
I'm really impressed at how it's all come together. So I'm grateful that here we are at version 7. You didn't have to find that many colors to go through. But I do think this is a really, feels like a very responsible and thoughtful budget. So just appreciative of everybody's efforts on it.
Any other discussion?
Is it after this?
Do we need to talk about the surplus here or is that separate?
No, we're gonna,
Coming up on
Okay.
the warning.
yeah.
Okay.
Warning.
So I want to get through this part and then we can switch gears. So once we're done this, then we can get to that. Anyone else? Okay, so we will make a motion later after we discuss the surplus, but everyone seems to be good with the budget as presented right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item then is going to be the last page. Page 2, Paul Harvey would say. For the rest of the story.
So I'm going to put the warning up. I'm putting the warning up, and I guess, I don't know, Brad, if we want to go through all of it. But
No, I don't think we need to go through all of it. If you went to the page before, you'll see this has got the breakdown, and I drew a little purple box around the numbers. Those are the numbers we're dealing with fiscal year 27, and those are what are plugged into the warning. And then if you scroll down a little bit here, we actually have 300,000 and change as surplus. So that's where the surplus piece comes in. And then if we scroll up to the warning, they're down rather, I guess. So there's the numbers that were boxed out in the purple are right in, we have the general fund and we have the highway fund. And then if we keep scrolling down, we have the wood for good, and then we have 300,000 from the FY25 surplus to the highway contingency reserve. And I think we added a little money to the pre-owned rubber tired backhoe. So the last time, so that shows 60, and then if we keep scrolling down. There we have, I reworded, I remember Patty wanted to make that a little more clear. So I wrote Article 10, shall the town exercise its option to purchase the 2021 dump truck, which is currently being leased by the town at a cost not to exceed 40,000. So I think this gives the impression of the voters, oh, okay, we're already leasing a truck, we're just buying it out. And then Article 11 will be the petition question. So if everybody's okay with that, we can just, or has any questions, we can deal with that. And then we just need to talk about the informational hearing date.
So Brad, if I'm correct, that the articles that are open, like the lease, that would add to this budget's bottom line, because that's not in the budget.
Correct.
At this time.
Yeah, I brought that up. So the 40,000 for the dump truck and the 60,000 for the rubber tired backhoe, the pre-owned rubber tired backhoe, would get added if these articles pass by Australian ballot, then they would be added to the overall budget.
Very good. Any questions as it relates to the budget before we entertain a motion? Patty.
I have a quick question. So if we move 300,000 of the surplus to the highway contingency fund, that leaves remaining $68,130 and change. What happens to that?
That money stays in the general fund. So it would just pass through.
Okay.
We always have in our general fund. So this is, I try not to complicate things too much, but we keep 15% of our operating expenses always in our general fund. So our surplus was 1.1 million or whatever was our general fund at the end, our unassigned general fund. We then take 15% of the projected operating expenses and kind of sock that away. So we already have 480.
And that's a policy.
That's a policy.
So we're required to do that.
Yes.
For everybody.
So we have that, and then this money basically will go into the general fund as well.
So it's not going to go into a reserve. It'll just be to reduce.
No,
The
it'll just
overall-
be there, and
it'll-
then
We can use it for anything. We could use it
Mhm.
to cover some of these other ballot items if they're voted.
True.
Okay.
Or you could let it ride, kind of like we're
Right.
doing with the paving grant, and then see where we are after, Bridge 7 will be
Yeah.
done. We'll be in a FY26 audit, and then we'll see what we have for.
It's basically like having a little extra cushion without designating it to any specific
Okay.
spot.
Excellent. Thank you.
Whereas once we put it into the reserve and the voters say, yes, we want that in the reserve, then that can only be used for
Exactly.
highway contingency reserve.
I have a question. As Brad, you've brought to our attention concerns about devastating storms and what if FEMA support would be there like there has been in the past. With this 300,000 in particular that's going into the highway contingency reserve, were there a storm in which we could get no other federal dollars? Would that 300,000 be able to be applied to that?
Absolutely. And that's the whole idea of this highway contingency fund or reserve. We have 200, I think, in there now. So this will bring it up to 500. Well, actually, it'll bring it
More.
up to 600
Yeah.
because we're using the state aid to highway is going into the reserve. And I think at one point, we had close to $700,000 in our reserves. And that's just smart. You saw the article I forwarded you about Sutton and West Burke.
Right.
They took that to the courts. The declaration was rejected. They took that to the courts. That got rejected. So Sutton is in, they're a very small rural town. I don't know if you've been up through there, but it's they don't have anything, and they're hurting. So there is always the state. So the state has a fund, and it's based on kind of our operating expenses. So when a disaster happens, it could happen anytime. Say we get a big rainstorm next summer and we get some roads washed out. We can seek some compensation from the state, but depending on how widespread that is, there may not be that much money to go around. So this is just, I think, really smart planning. And I've seen it. I've seen 2 huge FEMA disasters here. And, $500,000 can get sucked up pretty fast.
Dan?
So we have a 2% increase as we're looking at the budget. Do you have an idea if everything passes on the warning, what that increase would go to? The weight of what's on the article, and you probably will discuss this in your rationale, I would imagine. But do you have an idea what that number might be?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I believe it would only. So I get confused because I'm waiting. We don't have the grand list yet. Based on our current estimation of the grand list, approximately about 63,000 is a penny on the tax rate. So if this is 100,000, it'll be, a penny and a half on the tax rate if this grand list is correct. But it's not a lot of money.
Okay.
So
think
I could tell you that.
That's important to know.
I could do a quick equation and tell you that, but I'd have to stop sharing my screen and all to do
No,
that.
I think if you include that in the
Explanation.
you do an excellent job at writing that up and clarifying what people are reading in the town report. And if you include that, I think that would be really a good thing.
Absolutely, I will.
The thing I kind of look at is, we're going through the statistical reappraisal, right? So we don't know what those numbers are. But I looked at, I asked Amanda this question. We had a lot of large homes that were built this year. So if you just say we were not doing a statistical reappraisal and we had a grand list, quite a bit of money is going to get added to the grand list just based on development. right? So you got to keep that in your head a little bit. You shouldn't rely on it ever, but there's a little cushion in there. Say 5 million got added to the, I mean, 500,000
Yeah.
really got added because it's based on 100, right? So this grand list you see at 6 point whatever million is really billion, right? So it's reduced down to the 100 just to get rid of some zeros. But I always kind of look at that. Well, did we have a good year? Did we issue a lot of building permits? Did a lot of new homes get built? That does matter, but again, it should never be relied on. But I think Jennifer's right. I think it's a pretty minimal amount that would get added.
And I will tell you that I'll put that in the descriptions.
Awesome. You know, there's one item that I feel like we had talked about, and I can't remember where we came down on, and it was whether or not we should be increasing our front porch forum donation or allocation. I don't know what the right way to think about it, but it's been $100 a year for the last several years. And I know we had talked about what a valuable service it is and how much as a town we rely on it, but I don't know that we made any commitments one way or the other. Or
I would love to see that question come up on the floor. Because I think it would be excellent discussion, and I think it would be a proper place for the voters voting on the budget, you know, to weigh in and say, you know, and someone could easily bring that up from the floor.
That might be something that I could put into the, I haven't drafted the report of the select board for the town meeting, but I think I could pose that as something that we would encourage to come from the floor to give us direction or to take action on.
I think that would be great.
Would we actually ask somebody specifically to bring it up?
You could. I've talked about it with Peter Bennett for years. I said, "Are you going to bring it up?" And you know, I've wanted to bring it up from the floor before, but I think that's we can
just to make sure it does come up.
Absolutely, and I think it's almost better that way because if we follow our appropriations policy, we can only up it by $200, right? So, and maybe people want to give more than that. I think it's we rely on it heavily.
Yeah.
So I think if there is any other discussion, sorry, it's not actually the angels of mercy coming to save me. So it's my phone.
This budget is ordained.
Right, exactly. Although it was perfect timing when we said to talk about, you know, taking action on the budget. I think it would be appropriate to affirm the budget as presented as the final version. So a motion to accept this budget version 7 would be appropriate at this time.
I'll make that motion. Do you need numbers or you just want to say version 7?
I'd say version 7 as presented.
I'll make the motion that we approve version 7 of the budget as presented.
Is there a second?
Do we need a caveat that some of the final numbers may change? Or is it?
I think that's a given.
Okay, then I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving version 7 of the Town of Underhill budget, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the nay. That motion carries 5-0. Well done.
Excellent.
Great.
The next item, I believe, is going to be the official warning. We have a sample before us.
I think we're going to want to add the question from tonight. And then my idea was it's too early to approve the warning. So the 22nd is lined up for your regular meeting to approve the warning. I'll have it in advance with the question. I guess the big thing is the informational hearing because that has to be stated correctly on the warning.
Very good. So we're going to pause on the warning. Okay. And we're going to now talk about warning the informational meeting on the 26th of February. Excuse me.
That is a regular scheduled meeting.
Correct. I, unfortunately, or fortunately, will not be here. I will be someplace warm.
Hawaii?
In not Hawaii, but it's a little bit closer than Hawaii. But I will not be here. I suppose I could, if Dan can chime in from Paris,
Yeah.
and others have chimed in
That's what I
from
was asking.
others. I feel like the bar is you set the bar very high, Dan, as far as, your dedication and everything like that. So
That's true.
perhaps,
I will
I could
also be
there.
out of town, so.
But
I'm-
if we have a majority in-house, I mean, I can chime in from afar, but does the 26th work for most?
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
26th or 22nd, sorry, yeah,
22nd.
22nd, yeah,
Of February?
Wait,
yes.
Oh,
That's
you
a
had
s-
20,
no,
you had,
January. That's a
No,
Sunday.
we're talking about the informational meeting on the 26th.
No, 26th of February,
Yeah, okay.
informational, sorry.
Okay.
You're really confused.
The 26th is for the hearing.
For the informational hearing,
Yeah.
yeah.
so we don't necessarily, we just need to have that available for people to ask questions and answer and stuff like that. It isn't necessarily that we have to have a majority of the board here for that meeting.
Well, you do. We have to have a quorum.
We do, okay.
We do have to have a quorum, so we have to have 3 people here. And it's for Australian ballot questions only, although we can go through the whole thing. We've done that before.
And Dan Mance will be here to
Yes,
basically run the hearing.
correct.
And Dan will be here.
All right.
We've
So then if
confirmed
there's,
So there's quorum.
if I was gonna say, as long as there's quorum,
Just to be clear, I won't be here.
okay,
So,
I will not be here.
all right.
But it
If all
really,
goes
it's,
well.
Yeah.
by law, it's only for Australian ballot questions. So
Okay.
people can learn more about it. And maybe we want to keep it just germane to that. But I think if
Mhm.
someone had a random budget question, it'd be crazy not to answer it.
Sure.
Sure.
But we'll stick to the Australian ballot
Okay.
questions.
Yeah, because I can try to attend virtually, but I don't know if I'm.
I'm with you.
I'll attend virtually too.
Okay, I'll do my best. All right, so we're set on that. Okay,
That's good.
the last is the closing public comment period. I don't know if your daughter has any questions for us tonight. Do you have any questions
Not
for
any
us?
questions or comments for the board?
When are we getting out of here, perhaps?
What
Okay.
that.
Question. What's for dinner?
I understand Mom is a very good cook.
I think that was a no comment response.
Yep, okay, well, we'll note that in the record. And I don't know that we have anybody virtually, so
No.
we can go to member items, correspondence, announcements. The next regular scheduled select board meeting is set for the 22nd of January, where the select board will approve and sign the official warning for the 2026 annual town meeting.
I am also going to be out of town next week. I should be able to attend virtually though, but I think it should be okay to attend virtually. I'll only be in Illinois, not far away, so
Okay.
I'm not out of the country.
When will you be coming back?
I will be back Saturday night, the 24th.
Okay,
Sign it.
I'll have to check on I'll check on the law with the signing because it'd be nice to have you sign the warning too.
Okay.
But we could do that. We could also do that electronically maybe. So
Oh, okay.
I'll check that out.
Okay.
You can work that out.
I would like
Perhaps.
to take this opportunity to recognize my appreciation for Mount Mansfield Community Television and how easy it is to watch the videos of the meeting that I missed last week. It was an important meeting as a new select board member for me to still have heard, even though I wasn't here. It was so much more meaningful for me to be able to watch the recording than if I were trying to read through printed minutes. And I just wanted to take a moment on the record to be appreciative of that.
Absolutely.
I agree
Yes.
as not being able to be present. That was helpful. Anyone else have anything? If not, I have something.
Okay, go ahead, Bob. And I just have a little something after here just to ask you after you're done.
Okay. So I had the pleasure of going to the town of Jericho. The high school had a art show, and my son was performing at that art show with his garage band, the Leaky Faucet. So there's a little plug for them. But
They're excellent.
That's a great.
I heard them at the community dinner and was really appreciative of what a skilled group they are.
yeah. So when I was at the town of Jericho's town hall, I was talking with Catherine, and she's announced that she is retiring. So the first thing is that I think it would be nice for us to send something for her retirement. I'm not sure what that looks like, and perhaps we can all put our thinking caps on, and do something for the next meeting. I also would like to, while I was there at the town hall in Jericho, notice that they have a very similar declaration of inclusion. However, they have taken theirs and they have framed it, and they have put it near the entrance of the building. And so I would also like to add this for our next meeting to discuss, but I would like to have us all reaffirm this and potentially post this not only here, but at all our town buildings. So that will be forthcoming.
That's a great idea, Bob.
In the next meeting.
It's a great idea.
That is a great
So,
idea. Thank
Font of 18.
Right. Exactly. So you don't have to,
you. Does it have to be Times New Roman though?
Oh, that's good.
Sorry.
but I will give credit to the town of Jericho for and just copying their well thought out idea.
Yeah,
there.
that is great.
Brad, I don't have anything else.
Did you want to talk about the superintendent?
Oh, that's right. Thank you. So the superintendent, John Muldoon, I kind of like the last part of his name, coming from the Dune clan, would like to sit down and meet with us along with the representatives from the town of Underhill. As a community outreach, that was one of the charges apparently that their board has made for all of the towns in the district. So, and he also would like to discuss with us their budget. And he's looking for approximately a half hour for the time for presentation, and then, the time allotted for answering questions and that sort of thing. So I was thinking that it is not a school board meeting. So I was going to try to limit that to perhaps, if it's okay with everyone, to about 10 or 15 minutes. And we could go from there. And that would be, I think we have it penciled for the 22nd as well, next time we meet. So if that is okay with everyone, we will make that happen, and that will probably be close to the beginning of the agenda. I'm not hearing any
I think that's a good idea.
reservations or opposition to that. So
Sounds good.
thanks, Brad, for reminding me of that. Is there anything else?
Yeah, so as you know, Brian Dion stepped down from the planning commission chair. Time for him to take a break. He's excited about the new energy that's surrounded the planning commission with some new members. But Larry wanted me to ask you all, since you're out and about in the community and you may know of some people that may have the skills to want to join the planning commission. So I will forward to you just a little summary of what the planning commission does and when they meet. And if you would just be mindful of, when you're out and about and you meet someone, if you could just do a little soliciting to that effect, Larry would appreciate it.
Is the opening specifically for the chair, or
No, it's not
the
for
opening
the
would be
chair,
for a
just
new member?
New member.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So-
stepping in as a chair would be the high.
He just thought, since you all are, respected members of the community, that you may know someone that, might fit that role. So I'll send you that. You can read it and see what you think. The other thing Larry asked me was the land use regulations. So we kind of put those on the back burner. because of, well, this budget and town meeting and so forth. So the first meeting in February is the 12th. So we could have, and we're not limited to just one public hearing, but we could have a public hearing on those land use changes that were sent to you probably a couple months ago. And I didn't want to see if you'd be amenable to that.
I think that's a question that we can take up next time we meet.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to plant the seed, I guess. That's it.
Very good. Anything else? If not, look at that. It is 7 o'clock. We are 15 minutes ahead of schedule. We are now at that favorite point in time where Dan gets to say the famous words.
I do move we adjourn.
It has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned at 7:01.
Excellent.
Thank you.